Welcome back to Good Girls Gotta Heal, the podcast where we learn to release the weight of childhood trauma and step into our most authentic selves. It's time to ditch that good girl mask and embrace a life of ease, compassion, and genuine connection. Join me, Megan Walsh, holistic trauma therapist, and let's embark on a journey of healing and self-discovery together. Let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone, to Good Girls Gotta Heal. I am so grateful to have you back with me today, and I'm so thrilled because today I am sitting down with someone who I know so many of you are going to feel very seen by. So I'm here with Stephanie Ellis, and Stephanie is a therapist, trauma specialist, and mother who has spent over a decade supporting powerhouse women just like you, and especially the eldest and only daughters. Can't wait to dive into that, who have been carrying so much for so long. Stephanie's work is all about helping strong, independent women slow down, release those overfunctioning patterns that I know so many of us identify with, and reconnect with their emotions without losing their strength. In this conversation, I am so excited to dive in with Stephanie to talk about the spectrum of the ways in which this kind of experience really impacts us, especially as women. So if you have ever felt like your body is holding the weight of everything that you have carried, this episode is definitely for you. So Stephanie, welcome. I am so thrilled to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here, Megan. Thank you for having me. And as I said earlier, this conversation is so needed. There is a select group of people who possibly believe that this work is not for them. And we want to be able to help them to identify with their pain somatically, emotionally. Vulnerability is huge. So I'm just happy to be here so that we can have a real conversation that so many people will relate to.
Absolutely. And you shared this with me right before we began to record, but I wonder if you can again talk a little bit about the kind of woman who has slipped through the cracks, or maybe who hasn't identified with, actually maybe I do need some support, who hasn't maybe realized that yet or understood that yet. Can you talk a little bit more about her and what you've seen in this kind of individual that you have worked with?
Oh, of course. Now, what I found over the years, Megan, that initially the first few years of my therapy, I was finding that we were already redefining therapy online in the social space. So a lot of people were starting to embrace it. We know that in the US, mental health is kind of seen as a gift to yourself, and it's huge. But what I was seeing in Europe and the UK was this: we should be miserable, we should be unhappy. So there was reluctance and resistance anyway towards therapy. Then when people started to steer towards, okay, maybe I do need support, maybe I do need some help, they wanted a reason that would justify the therapy.
Yeah.
Now, if you haven't grown up in the care system and your parents weren't alcoholics, or you haven't had a huge loss, then you might not even identify with trauma. You possibly believe that something traumatic is something that completely overhauled your life, but it's the little micro moments we've seen that are the ways they impact us. What was happening, I was getting people into my practice, Megan, and I was okay, you're struggling with your body, you're struggling with your home, you're struggling with your relationships. And these people that were coming for help and support, they were able to justify their therapy because there were so many areas of their life that they did need some help with, healthier coping skills. And then I would get the odd consultation call with a hyper independent woman who had intellectualized her journey, believed she could think her way out of her sadness, wasn't able to slow down. Her physical body was showing the signs and effects of the trauma that was suppressed through autoimmune. So these women would come to therapy and say, not really sure if this is for me, because they had the great job, or they had a good relationship with their family, or a great group of friends. So they didn't instantly identify with, you are traumatized. And what I realized is that these are the people that hold the most physical trauma within their DNA, within their receptors, because they carry so much and suppress so much, and they're not feeling, they're not allowing expression. And we know what happens when you spend years not expressing yourself. And just to touch on the question you asked, Megan, about what I usually see in these women. So we're looking at women who have raised their siblings. They had a very short window where they were able to connect with their parents before there was a new experience, more children, and they helped out. This is the child that has buffered her parents' arguments, possibly stood up to dad, challenged him. She is the easy child, the one that nobody has to worry about. She's organized, she's consistent, she's stable. She is a source of love, affection for everybody in the family. She's the family thermostat. She balances out all of the emotions. She knows way too much about her mother's emotional world than she should. Teachers would always praise her for being, so well behaved. And when you think about these women that have been praised for their overfunctioning and their perfectionism, no wonder they haven't slowed down and stopped, because then their world would look so different. So it's quite scary for these women to say, hey, what do I need to work on here?
Because everything that they have learned to cope, learned to feel safe, right? All of the overfunctioning that they've done, right? It's kept them going. It's been their survival mode. And so it probably feels, it's terrifying to have the thought of letting that go. And, I am just really, really in awe of us. Even, of course I am in the United States, and so very much in the culture of everybody is wanting to go to therapy and work on their mental health. And I'm so curious for you as a therapist. I'm so curious, and I want us to dive into especially the embodied experience of trauma. But before we get there, I actually would love to learn what was it like for you. I'm curious. I imagine, are you an eldest daughter? Do you identify with this
I'm a
dynamic?
middle child, Megan, but
Okay.
my older sister
Uh-huh.
left home very early, and
Okay.
so I was conditioned as the oldest. So there may be
Yes.
women
Yes.
listening who are the youngest or the middle, but they have been conditioned in a role,
Yeah.
or they were the only daughter in the family,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe
Yeah.
the oldest daughter as a grandchild. So
Mm-hmm.
there will be so many people saying, I'm not the oldest daughter, but I identify
Mm-hmm.
with this. It's what your
Totally.
conditioning is. And if somebody older than you steps out or moves out,
Yeah.
or the age gap's too much, you will definitely be conditioned in that role.
Yeah, it's so true because I am a youngest daughter here, but I am the only daughter. I have two older brothers, and
Yeah.
so in the same way of being the only daughter, like I identify with all of the eldest daughter
Yeah.
characteristics. And so I am so curious for you. It sounds like there has been such a stigma around seeking therapy, especially in the UK, in Europe. And what has that been like for you to become a therapist there? And I'm just very curious what that journey was like and what kind of led you there to do this work.
If I look at my background, Megan, it's one that has been so fragile and so sensitive, because alongside, and you'll know this yourself, alongside
Mm-hmm.
helping other women, you're also on your own journey.
Mm-hmm.
And there are triggers and there are
Mm-hmm.
conversations that you're having, and you can't preach in one area if you're not also implementing that in your own life. So my journey was, I worked in law originally, and I had my daughter very young,
Mm-hmm.
and my partner was the main breadwinner, and he was very emotionally unavailable. I'd experienced silence growing up. We weren't punished physically, but my mum would be very passive aggressive around the home. We never knew what mood she was feeling, and we would try and temper that mood by helping out with housework, or we would try and encourage dad to be a little bit more present with her, or we would wrap her birthday presents when he didn't do it. We would bring her flowers from the garden. There were so many things we did to
Oh,
keep her. It's the eggshell mum. So
of course.
I never identified really with having a mum that was emotionally unavailable, because she was always home. We had clean school uniforms. We always had dinner on the table. But when I think on a deeper level, she would lay out the dinner, but then she would go and clean up.
Oh,
She would disappear to her bedroom and feel her emotions and then come back out when she was ready.
sure.
So I couldn't understand why I'd attracted an emotionally unavailable partner. And when we had our daughter, how he communicated was very similar to how my mum did. The neglect that I was witnessing in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship of himself, of me, he saw any communication as confrontation.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to ask for my own needs to be met. And this went on for a long time, and I mothered him. I mothered him because I believed if I'm
Yeah.
smart, if I'm capable, if I take away all of his problems, then
Yeah.
he will love me. When I
Mm.
left that relationship,
Mm.
it was so easy, Megan, to say, we got a divorce and I was now a single mum.
Mm-hmm.
I felt a lot of shame around that.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I do? How can I be there for my daughter and have a good career? still in this over-functioning phase.
Yeah.
And I'm blaming him. I'm like, it's him. He's a
Yeah.
bad person. He's done all these bad things to me. And I was really, really good. And I'm a great person. And I'm so helpful. And I'm so emotionally attuned. And I know exactly what he needs. And I'm hardworking. And I'm a great mother. What more could he want? Literally selling myself. So I went for therapy. And my therapist made all the connections. She was a trauma expert, and she made all the connections between the ways I tried to earn my mum's love, the lack of communication in the family, the lack of apology, and how that had led me. That blueprint had led me towards my husband. And I was like, why are we not taught this at school? Why do we not know this?
Yes. So
But
true.
what people don't tell you, Megan, and this is something that comes up within the UK, and it's something that people are terrified of. In order for me to process the relationship I'd been in for 12 years, I also had to look at the relationship with my mother.
Yeah.
I had to challenge her. This cute little grandmother that bakes and does everything and is really sweet is not the woman that I grew up with. And I had to start holding her accountable and setting boundaries. And I always say this, Megan, the oldest daughter or the parentified daughter, she is not just the oldest daughter or the parentified daughter in relationships. She is the planner in friendships. She is the one checking the TripAdvisor reviews. She is the one finding the nice hotels. She's the one who buys the thoughtful birthday gifts. She's the one that constantly borrows money to her siblings or bails them out, or she's the cool auntie, and I had to look at all the ways where I was over functioning, and it wasn't just in my romantic life. I dated again, and I realized I had this thing where I mother men. I like to conquer men, and I like to have all the control because then they can't abandon me. So I had to work on that, and that was a journey in itself. And I'm now in an amazing, healthy relationship. But it took that work, Megan, and a lot of people do not want to go on that journey because you have to look at your family systems.
Oh, for
You
sure.
also have to look at your health. You have to change your diet. And also all of the ways you've benefited from the hyper functioning, the hyper independence. That's really hard to undo because, like we said, I've got a great home, I've got a great career, and I function very well. You can't see a lot of the trauma, and that's why I think so many people are resistant.
Yeah, you were. I mean, first, I thank you so much for sharing your story because I know that so many are going to say, "Wow, yes, that is me too." And just to hear it from you, I think is going to mean so much. And it's obviously such an incredible journey, an incredible testament to you. And I see in your story all the chapters where you had to confront the really hard thing, where you could have said like, whoa, this is way too uncomfortable. Like you could have been in therapy being like, yeah, I don't want to process the relationship with my mom. No, thank you. I'm just here to process the divorce. But the fact that you did, you allow that in and clearly, right, have been able to make some space, right, to hold boundaries but maintain connection, or to be able to name exactly what you needed and really
Oh, of
standing up for
course.
yourself and the little girl who couldn't,
That's
when
it,
she
isn't it?
let
Every
go.
time you speak up, Megan, you vocalize what wasn't said. So I always say this to my clients, every time you set a boundary, every time you say no, that doesn't work for me, you're not just speaking up for your adult self. There's a little girl in there that's saying, no, but you shouldn't stand up to these people and don't set that boundary. And I must admit, there were times, Megan, where I wasn't talking to my sister, I wasn't talking to my mum because I went back to university. I'm studying psychotherapy and counselling services. I'm literally like breaking myself apart from the ground up. And I wanted support on that. And I can't tell you how many times, Megan, I would say to my mum, just learn to hold space. And she'd say, I don't know what that means. You keep telling us all to hold space and we don't know what that means, because you don't forget you're healing and you have to step back into the dysfunction. If the dysfunction doesn't go away, you learn to cope with it in a different way.
Yeah, yes. And again, it sounds like you've had to make those brave steps, which I know, and I've walked clients through how hard it is to actually have to take that step of taking space, of removing yourself from relationships that aren't serving you. And I'm so curious. I would love to hear from your perspective. If there were someone, a client who is at that moment of like, how do I know? How do I know when it's time to step back? How do I know when it's time, when I've asked for all I can ask for, I've put my needs out there and I'm still not getting what I need in return? What would you tell them, or what advice would you give them to move through that moment of how to understand, their need, if their need might be to take some space?
Well, this is why we say, Megan, that these women tend to slip through the cracks in therapy, because they do understand what's happened to them. They do understand that the dynamics were maybe unhealthy, but breaking the dysfunction requires them to replace their whole identity. So it's sitting with that. It's sitting with the fact that you are a person that has collected parts of yourself that you believe are your character, your values, your personality, but then also parts of you that other people rely on. And you've got to look at your relationships, you've got to look at your workspace. How is my overfunctioning benefiting others? I would start by just making a list every day. This is something so small that you can do. Making a list every day, things I need to do for myself, things I need to do for other people. And your list for yourself should always be longest. I would look at how you respond to your own problems, your own dysregulation. Do you call somebody? Do you reach out? Do you tell people? Is there anybody that you can trust? If you go inward, you isolate, that's a sign that people are not attuning to you the way you need them to. Now, this is what I always say about parentified daughters or hyper-independent daughters. They're not looking for love. They're looking for emotional attunement. And by that, I mean, they do things, and people will be listening right now and relating. They do things without people having to ask. They have mastered the art of knowing what is going on beneath the surface. Their senses are not of this world. So they know when you've had a bad day. So they might make dinner or bring takeaway. They know that the person that you're dating at the minute isn't making you feel very good. So they're going to take you out for drinks and cheer you up. They are someone who, if you said, hey, my car is broken down, they wouldn't say, oh, what are you going to do? They're there. They've called breakdown recovery. They've come to pick you up. They've brought you a coffee. Do you need anything? They know when you are suffering with a situation, and they will step in and help, and they rarely ever get that back. And what happens is it reinforces, Megan, that they're unlovable without performance when they do say to a partner or a friend, having a really bad day, and that person says, oh, but I know what you're like, you'll get over it. Or, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize you're having a bad day. Oh, let me talk more about myself. Or a partner who says, tell me what you want from me. Tell me what I want you to walk in the house and unload the dishwasher. I want you to go into the garden and start cleaning up and moving some things so that I don't have to do it. I want you to let me have a lie in and bring me breakfast in bed, but I'm never going to ask for that because I'm an oldest daughter and I don't know how to. So a lot of women listening will not even be able to identify what they should be asking for because they're so capable. You've really got to sit with your emotional needs. Look at your emotional needs, your love language, your attachment style.
Right, absolutely. And I always say make it a practice, right? Like make that embodied check-in of like, how do I feel? How does my physical body feel? How does my emotions feel? What do I need? And what steps can I take? It's so clear, right? It's like, and I will be the first to validate this for anyone. I know you want them to just know. I know you want them to just do it. I totally get it. I get it. And it doesn't make them showing up for you any less worthy if you ask for it, because actually you are telling them how to partner with you. And then they are going to learn, right? Because they need to learn how to partner with you, and they don't know unless we're able to say it, but it's so hard. It's so hard.
And usually as well, Megan, like you said, from the outset, they haven't had to know because you were maybe doing everything until you got sick, until you got laid off, until you had an argument with your parents. You were possibly showing up as 100% competent and capable, and you maybe even marketed your independence as a way to make you more attractive. So this is what we do. We compete. We go into our masculine energy. We are fixers by nature, and so when other people don't do that for us, we sum that up as they don't love me. They mustn't love me because this is how I love. And it's not that. Prefacing things with, hey, I'm not really good with asking for help. So if I do ask you for help, just know that I'm in need. Let people know that when you meet them. Let people know, listen, I'm somebody who really likes to think about what other people need. I'm very thoughtful and I'm looking for that back. And preface it with that. I'm working on it. It doesn't always have to be, hey, I'm not vulnerable yet. I'm just working on it.
Yeah. And that you having needs, right, is not burdensome, which I know is also a common block that many women have to name their needs out loud, as they feel like, well, if I name it, I'm a burden. Because if we go right back, and I'm thinking in your story, right, of right, I mother men so they won't abandon me. which is right. I had to mother my mother, right? So that
Yeah.
she wouldn't abandon me.
Yeah.
And just how deep rooted that goes. And so if I were right, if I were to have a need inside of that parental dynamic, then like that would be too much, right? Or they, she wouldn't be able to tolerate it. And so it goes back to that place. So part of this, right, is that inner child reparenting work of letting that younger version of you know that, hey, you always needed your needs to
Yeah.
be heard, attuned to, and met.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, like you said, Megan, you can connect those dots yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important to get support in this. It's so important to say to your therapist, I am a high functioning woman. I
Yes.
love my life. I enjoy parts of my life. But
Mm-hmm.
there is one area of my life that I need support with, and I want you to help me connect the dots. But like you said, just going back and thinking, what did you need? So thinking of yourself in your bedroom, mum has fired off on everybody in the house. She's feeling overwhelmed. She's feeling unappreciated. She's a martyr. She does things and then she shames everybody for not helping her. She overfunctions
Yeah.
herself. You want to be easy, so you stay in your bedroom.
Yeah.
Mum screamed at you, told you that you're lazy, there's something wrong with you, she shamed you. You're now sitting with the shame. You needed somebody to knock on your bedroom door and say, I'm so sorry for how I spoke to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are so worthy. I love you, and I'm sorry that I can't regulate myself. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want you to think that you are to blame. And even parents and mothers listening to this,
Yes.
we tell our kids off, we get angry, we shut down, we get resentful. It's
Mm-hmm.
the communication that
Yeah.
matters afterwards. Let
Mm-hmm.
that person know that was about me. That was because my needs are going unmet.
Mm-hmm.
And from that place, you can understand, okay, I'm not really good with apologies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really good with communication, or no one's
Yeah.
ever, I've never co regulated with anybody. I'm
Yeah.
great with self regulation, but I don't co regulate very well.
Right.
So you can start from that
Yeah.
place and realize, where am I stepping into these patterns? And I'll give you a really good example, Megan. I was putting my house on the market,
Mm-hmm.
and the woman that was selling my house, I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast, but the woman that was selling my house, I was avoiding her calls because I was having such a stressful week.
Sure.
And I was walking the dog. I had about 20 minutes before, I had to get on
Mm-hmm.
another call. And I see the woman selling my house in the street. And she's like, Steph. And I'm like, hey.
Ah.
She stops me and she says, I found your socials. And I just want to say, you've really helped me because I'm going through a divorce right now and I really need some support.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, in that moment, Megan, make a really tough call. I either choose myself, walk my dog, and get back in time,
Yeah.
and tell her that she can book in a call, which is so uncomfortable to do. Or I can stand
I
here for
know.
30 minutes telling her everything she needs to do and everything she needs to
Right.
work on. And as a high functioning woman who knows a lot and has a lot of information in her mind, I knew
Mm-hmm.
exactly what she needed in that moment.
Yeah.
I wanted to regulate her, but
Yeah.
one of my patterns is that I jump in to fix.
Yes.
So I didn't. I said, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I feel so honoured that you have been this vulnerable with me.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to discuss this further. I do need to go and walk the dog and get back, but if you would like a call together, please just send me a DM.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked off full of shame, full of like, I'm
Oh.
such a bad person. Maybe she's not going to sell my house anymore. All of the narratives came up, but I still stayed in that, and
Yeah.
my day continued. And
Oh.
she was a bit like, oh, she
Uh-huh.
had overshared, and I didn't want to make her feel bad. But like we said,
Sure.
Megan, spot these cycles, spot your
Mm-hmm.
behaviors. Where do you find yourself? The minute your sister calls and says, hey, I'm really anxious today, just be like, listen, I know that you have anxiety. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
should get out and go for a walk. I'll call you later, rather than
Yes. Yeah.
I'm in the car, I'm coming to see you. Look at look at the
Mm-hmm.
places where other people have benefited from you over
Yeah.
functioning.
Yes. Oh, it's so true. Thank you. That is such a beautiful, perfect example of what it is like, right? And that the inner dialogue of what it's like of like, oh my God, this is really hard. I don't want to hurt this person's feelings, right? I know this person is needing something from me. And I have to honor my boundary right now. And really, right, it's you're validating in both of these examples, you're validating the emotion that you heard and still maintaining the boundary of this is what I can do, right? I have to go, but you can book a call, right? I have to go, but I can reach back out later. It's such a
Yeah.
beautiful way to set a boundary. And I think many listening will take that away and ideally be able to use that as a way to apply
Hopefully.
boundaries in
Yeah.
their own lives. No, absolutely. And, you know, even the example you shared earlier around becoming that, right? Envisioning yourself in your room and becoming the adult that knocks on the door and and really takes accountability. I know for me and my story of having a dad who had, a lot of anger issues, like anytime that example comes to the surface, oof, so many big feelings come up because I'm like, yes, right. I feel so emotionally into that because again, that is my inner child active right now, being like, yes, I needed that. I really needed that. And so I think that's such a beautiful exercise that I would love everybody to really take in. And what are the words? What are the words that you needed a parent to say on,
And
knocking on your door?
And don't be afraid of the triggers, Megan. Like you said, if you know that anger in your family was expressed a certain way, you will be afraid of anger. You will be afraid of feeling anger. And so, usually, what people don't realize is when you look at grief and sadness, unprocessed sadness leads to anger. So, if there is anger in your body that you couldn't express because somebody bigger and badder and stronger than you was expressing that, you may never even identify with being an angry person. You may bottle everything up. And so when your triggers do come up, you might be afraid of them. You might feel like they're too much. You might feel like you want to suppress them. We also get triggered by our own children. So my daughter is very safe. She's she's allowed to break things without having to profusely apologize for it and use her pocket money to replace it. She is, I'm a conscious parent. I'm a gentle parent. We talk things out. She gets in the car after school and she feels dysregulated. I let her have time to decompress. She basically runs the whole household, to be honest, Megan. She has way too much say, but we're out here trying. And even with her, sometimes, I have to apologize because one, I'm defending my inner child through her. So she'll be telling a story about school and my mum will say, sorry to interrupt, but just 1 second, the car outside that just pulled up. And I say, Mum, this is literally what you used to do when we were children. You would cut us off. We weren't important. Can you just finish listening to her story? And and my mum will get so offended. Oh, well, there's a car outside. Okay, but it's not urgent.
Not urgent.
And equally, my mum we eat intuitively in my house, and my mum is a huge feeder because she had 4 children and she has a scarcity mindset. So if there's nothing in the fridge, she panics. And when she's at my house, it's, what are we going to have for dinner? It's 11 a.m. And we literally just have to say to her, we eat intuitively. Whatever we're feeling like in the evening, we will make that, we will cook that. Yeah, but you're eating so late. So, when my daughter's plate has food in it, my mum will say, come on, eat up. And I say, no, she's full. So you're always advocating for yourself through your children without realizing it, or through your nieces and nephews. So look at where other children have needs, where you can stick up for them and you can defend them. That will be so healing for your nervous system.
Yes. Oh, it so is. And again, such a great example, such a good point that I know so many will resonate with. Absolutely. And this is something, I have a 2, almost 3-year-old son. And so we are, having these same moments of, moments where I can say, even when I have to set a boundary, I think I shared this recently. When I have to set a boundary with him, he'll get upset and he'll say, recently he said, you hurt my feelings. And I said, I know.
I love that he says that, though.
Yes, I know. It's like,
he's expressing way more than we are.
Yeah. I know, absolutely. And I said, I know, mommy sees that you're really sad. And and being able to comfort him even in the boundary that I had to set around, like, we're not gonna stab our fork freely, not on our food. And again, like, just that ability to, like, that is something I've been processing myself recently of, like, wow, I can set a boundary, right? Because all I know is that, like, there's a rule, right, and a consequence, and there is no connection. And so to be able to set a very healthy boundary and then maintain connection throughout, that is something that is so, I know, healing and soothing to my own nervous system. Like, hey, we can tolerate this discomfort together, right? I am still here and I'm with you, right, in these big feelings. And
not making it about your parenting,
right,
making it about, I'm a bad mother. My daughter, she's a teenager now. She's so messy, Megan. And her room, she decides at 10 o'clock at night that she's going to clean it. She wants the glass cleaner. She's like, where are the sprays? Where are the cloths? And I'm like, go to sleep, child. But in my house growing up, my mum didn't have much control over her life, so she would rage clean. She outwardly had OCD, and we would be brought in as a part of that. So my nervous system, when I see my daughter's room a mess, instantly is, why is she so messy? Did I not teach her enough? Is she not clean enough? Did I do something wrong? Did I not help her with my parenting? And no, that's not it. She's a teenager. She has lots of things. She's chilling in her room. She's relaxed. She feels comfortable to be messy.
Yeah.
I did not feel comfortable to be messy as a child. And a lot of women listening to this wouldn't have felt that either. They wouldn't have felt comfortable to be themselves because they would have been name called or shamed. And that's what we're breaking that shame. And when you look at the age that some of these women are getting to now, Megan, I'm working with a lot of women who are getting to the age of like 32, 33, up until 45. And this group of women, they're like, why is it all coming up now? Is it social media? Is it this? No, it's not. It's because you have been functioning a certain way that you could manage, that you could sustain, and now your body is saying, I can't do this. Can you listen to me, please?
And I love going into, if we were to go into the body and to actually, I'm so curious, from your perspective, there is conversation right around the connection between trauma, unprocessed trauma, and autoimmune conditions. And I'm so curious your experience, and from your perspective, what is happening inside of the body when trauma, unprocessed trauma, contributes to these physical conditions.
Or somatically. And I'm so glad that we're talking about this, Megan, because nobody else is talking about this. There are a few people in the industry, but it's not as it's not as talked about as it should be. I know in America a lot of people will be now making these somatic connections, that the trauma lives in the body. So what I started to see was, Megan, just off the cuff from my consultation calls, the same women started to come in. So it was women who are successful in many areas of their life, but just not relationships, romantic relationships. Why am I avoidant? Why do I shut down? Why do I have I've read that I've got a disorganized attachment style, or I'm so strong, I set boundaries, I'm a powerhouse in the boardroom, but I'm anxious in relationships. So a lot of their fears and a lot of their anxieties and worries were coming out in romantic relationships. And what would happen is, on these consultation calls, when I would say, has there been a physical response to how you've been feeling recently? More often than not, I'm hearing endometriosis, PCOS, Hashimoto's, which, it's the thyroid. It's all connected to the voice and your expression. Some of these are also genetic. So through epigenetics, you can inherit these patterns. But what we're seeing is their receptors are damaged because of suppressed trauma throughout life. And it's Gabor Mate speaks about this extensively, how when you suppress something, it has to go somewhere. This is why we do talk about movement, even talk therapy. Talk therapy is incredible, but we still need to be integrating. We still need to be making sure our relationship with our body is taken care of. And any women that have a tough relationship with their mum, even if they have an incredible mum, but it was tough growing up, you'll find that your relationship with your body and yourself is fractured. Because the mother wound it's how we identify with how to take care of ourselves. The father wound is how we connect with others. So if you have a really rigid relationship with exercise and food, controlling, or you are someone who binge eats, or you're someone who just really doesn't take care of herself, or then takes care of herself too much, that relationship with yourself needs some kind of focus. What we have seen, and I'll read this out to you now, Megan, is that cortisol binds to the receptors to calm inflammation in the body. Chronic stress desensitizes the receptors, so cortisol cannot regulate the immune response. This leaves the body in a pro-inflammatory state. Then we have our cytokine receptors in our immune cells. So these receptors detect signals like TNF alpha and interleukins. So overactivation from stress makes them hyper-responsive. So if you can imagine, your receptor cells are always on alert. Your cortisol can't effectively regulate your immune response. It can't calm the inflammation. And then your neurotransmitter receptors, so your serotonin, your dopamine, that's going to be altered too, because their sensitivity is affecting the mood, your pain perception, your sleep, which further dysregulates the immune system. So what's happening is it manifests somewhere in the body, in your cells, in your and we see this a lot in the kind of uterus area, because that's where the psoas muscle is. The psoas muscle is wrapped around your pelvic bone. So when we brace for fight or flight, when we brace for stress, as women, we brace from the pelvis. So this is why we say somatic shaking, any kind of work on the hips, you will find that will release trauma. You will cry. Kundalini yoga is great for this. I've had oldest daughters in my therapy practice for the past 2 years with chronic back pain. And they just say, oh, I've always had a bad back. I fell off my bike when I was 12. And I'm like, you are literally carrying the whole weight of your family. So it's the autoimmune response. The body is saying, hey, you're not listening to me, and I'm going to turn on you now. I'm going to turn back on you until you listen to me.
Wow. And your description of that, I think it goes so much deeper than what is being talked about kind of in a generalized level. Obviously, I think everybody has heard, right? The connection between the body and trauma and why somatic interventions are needed. But again, to get down to the muscular cellular level to see this is exactly what is happening inside of your body and why your body is reacting, why your body is inflamed. Whew. And I'm so curious, what would be for someone who is listening to this and might be like, oh, wow, that is my body. That is my experience inside of myself. What would be your advice to them on how to begin to work with their body in their own healing process?
The first is going to be removing urgency from your life. That email is not as urgent as you think it is. Answering that phone call, doing overtime, making plans all the time, just sitting in silence by yourself, making no plans for the weekend, and seeing how your body responds to that. Are you itching to get out? Are you, trying to get to the gym? Are you wondering what everyone else is doing? Are you doom scrolling when you're sat with yourself? Because true vulnerability begins with our relationship with our body, with our softness. What I do see happening is that, and I hate to talk about the masculine and feminine polarities all the time, but it's so important to recognize that we do have yin and yang in the body. Yeah. When you are in environments all the time where you're having to be strategic, where you're having to initiate, where you're having to be productive, when you are having to constantly think and execute, you need environments where you don't have to do any of that. There needs to be environments, or you need to have a partner or friends who embrace you slowing down. If you do not have anyone in your circle that allows you to slow down, you need to get some new friends, a new partner. You need to be able to rest. And that is very hard to do when you have been praised and you are successful based on all of this high functioning. Yep. So sitting with the body, some kind of somatic work. So somatic shaking. My friend Louise, she has something called Healing Honey's Daily Devotion. Every day they shake together, they get up, she does these classes. It's incredible. So the movement is huge. It's not movement because you're walking to work. It's not movement because you have to walk the dog. It's not movement. It's movement because you're saying, I want to release something in my hips. So starting with the psoas muscle. There are so many great pages out there as well that are now showing some kind of ways to release cortisol. Vagus nerve work. So actually, Megan, you probably already know this. We inherit low vagal tone from stressed out mothers. So your vagal tone, your dopamine levels and serotonin levels, your recovery from stress, there's going to be a lot of inflammation in your body unless you connect with the vagus nerve. So, and again, breathing exercises, reading, slowing down. We don't expect you to be frolicking in the meadows. We should be doing that and swimming in rivers and eating from our own apple trees. But most of us live in the city. We're working hard. We're high functioning. We're trying to make sure that we have covered our bills, and we do want to be in love. But like I said, with my clients who are working on their hyper independence and high functioning, I give them exercises to do for the body, but then I also ask them to be vulnerable with me throughout the week outside of sessions. So I have an option where they can send over emails where they can say, today I was quite vulnerable, I shared a story with a friend, or I asked my sister to make me dinner because I didn't feel like cooking. All those little moments of vulnerability, talking to a stranger. If you are dating, practicing with dating is great. Being able to say to somebody, a partner, hey, listen, I'm really working on my softness right now. I'm really working on receiving rather than giving. How can you show up for me? And that's hard because you want to sell yourself. There's this independent. You want to be like, look how independent I am.
Yes, right. I'm amazing. You're going to love me. Yeah. It's so true. You know what? When I was dating before I met my husband, I actually had made that commitment to myself of like, I am going to be so vulnerable. And that's
Yeah.
actually going to be my barometer for who is going to
Yeah.
be the right fit for me, is someone that can meet me in that vulnerability
Oh,
and make me feel safe, that they are treating it with care and
yeah.
kindness. And that's exactly what I found. It's so important.
I love that. And this is the thing, Megan, when the basis of the relationship relies on you being strong and independent,
Mm-hmm.
you're naturally going to attract people that do take advantage. They don't have to think for
Yeah.
you. And I did
Right.
date men that would be like, she's great, she cooks, she cleans, she works
Mm-hmm.
hard, she pays 50-50, you know, she's someone. And I hadn't allowed that in. And I remember when my tires were they
Uh-huh.
needed changing
Yeah.
because I don't stop, you see. So,
Uh-huh.
and when I met my partner and he was like,
Yeah.
your tires need changing. What
Mm-hmm.
I heard was, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
You're not someone who can take care of a car. Yes, you've got your own business and you've got a daughter and you do all these amazing things, but this is one area you just failed at. So what I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to say to him was, yeah, it's booked, it's going into the garage tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted to say, because
Yep.
my hyper independence felt
Right.
shame for not having all of my eggs, lined up.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
my ducks lined up, sorry, not my eggs. And so he says to me, do you want me to take it to the garage and get it done? And I was just like, I absolutely do, but I don't know how to say yes to
Yeah.
that. So I was
Right.
like, yeah, if you don't mind. And he took it and he got it all the tires changed,
Wow.
and my car, and he was like, your safety is so important to me. And I was like, oh my goodness. And he let me use his car while it was in the
Oh.
garage. Even those little acts, allowing
Yeah.
that in was so tough, but it's so important,
So
because
huge.
most men that you date, if they see that you're vulnerable and you're soft, it activates their vasopressin and their testosterone. They
Yeah.
want to do more for you. Men who are unhappy in relationships, I've found in my practice, they are usually unhappy because they can't make you happy.
Yes.
I've never really
Yes.
known a man to be like, I'm really miserable in the relationship, so I'm going to leave. It's more about, I can't keep her happy
Yeah.
anymore. She's
Right. I
not
don't feel
happy.
good
She
enough.
criticizes me. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
good enough. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
we are digressing across the relationship spectrum
Yes.
now. But just for women listening, if you are dating or if you are in a relationship, just slow down. I used to tell guys on dates that I'd paid my mortgage off. Why am I telling strangers this? Yeah, look, I've got a
Look
house
at.
that I don't pay bills on because I
Uh-huh.
pay. Look how strong I
Right.
am.
Yes.
Why on earth is that left your mouth? But sitting in a room with somebody and being soft and receiving and
Yeah.
not performing and not masking, and showing them how strong you are and that you don't need them, that's really tough to do. So
It is.
working with a therapist on that, or
Mm-hmm.
someone like yourself, Megan, someone like
Yeah.
myself,
Of
someone
course.
who will help you to be like, what does vulnerability look like to you? What
Yeah.
does safety look like to you? Is
Right.
there anybody else in your life that is vulnerable with
Mm.
you?
Yeah, I love that, right? The finding your safe people. And
Yeah.
if I think finding the safe people in your world, which I think I love how you started with that, because that is so important. Like, who do you feel safe with? Who doesn't give you that kind of safety to be yourself? And if that's something you've never experienced, most definitely, right? Entering into a therapy space and finding that kind of therapist emotional support that really does make you feel
Yeah.
seen and safe and held. And that's where we begin. That is, I know for both of us, right? The start of the healing journeys was being with a safe therapist who helped us to
Yeah.
really understand and to see the patterns and then to really bring that out into our lives. And so I'm curious, as a therapist, how can people work with you? And I'm curious if you have any offerings outside of therapy clients in the UK, which I am sure actually we have some listeners from the UK, but wanted
Mhm.
to see what you offer, because I imagine everybody listening would love to connect with you.
Oh, I love that, Megan. Thank you so much. So I
Mm-hmm.
do work with people in the US and Canada. My
Okay.
insurance is set up for that. I can't accept insurance clients, but I have clients in the Middle East. It is teletherapy.
Mm-hmm.
Couples, I can't have couples therapy. As you know, couples therapy over camera, over teletherapy is very
It's
difficult.
hard. Yeah.
You can't really see the dynamics going on, but with someone in front of you, absolutely find me on Instagram,
Yeah.
Stephanie Therapy. Everything's there, the link in my bio. I actually never had very much traffic to my website, but my socials, I
Yeah.
put out a post and most people identify it and
Mm-hmm.
identify with it. So if you do see a post on there that you identify with, send it to me, or on your account, Megan,
Yeah.
seeing things and reading the captions and starting
Yeah.
to write down what you identify with, that in itself is vulnerable. Booking a
Absolutely.
consultation call. I also have an e-guide that is for
Mm-hmm.
oldest daughters.
Amazing.
You might not want to start with therapy. You might just want to dip your toes in a little bit and listen to podcasts. And that's what we're here for. This community is huge. You have to be able to sit with yourself and be able to recognize, like you said, Megan, what do I want from this? Do I want to heal my physical body? Do I want to heal my relationships?
Yeah.
There are so many resources out there and so many safe people. And when you have a healthy female therapist, that's another expression of healthy female dynamics. If you do have a difficult relationship with your mum, you might be inclined to choose a male therapist. The best thing you can do is connect with a female therapist and challenge her. Let her know, I don't have healthy female relationships. I would love to work on my vulnerability. It will be the best decision of your life, just to start this journey. And knowing that there'll be times when you've set a boundary and you might have to hide from your phone or worry about going into work the next day, but every time you do that, you're easing that immune response. Your body is saying, I'm safe. I'm safe with Megan. I'm safe with Steph. My inner child is always saying, oh, you've got this. And if you do any kind of inner child work yourself, Megan, taking your adult self into a space with that inner child and saying to her, I've got this now. I am taking over from here. You don't have to keep performing and over-functioning. I'm going to make decisions that put us in soft spaces and loving spaces, and you don't have to control this anymore. You will stop making decisions from your wounded little girl, and you will start to make decisions from a conscious adult, a protective adult, someone that would have or should have protected you. Usually when we are hyper-independent, we become the man. We want to be in that masculine energy. It feels safer. Becoming mum was too scary.
It's too scary, absolutely.
The idea of becoming this stressed out, bogged down woman who didn't follow her dreams. So we went the other way. We became like dad, and that's what we have to sit with.
Oh, such an important message to leave everybody with. Truly, Stephanie, you are a gem. You are incredible. I would love to have you back. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your gentle insights. I'm sure everybody in listening today is going to be making a lot of new connections, especially around, their fully embodied experience of their trauma. And especially thank you for the concrete steps that they can be taking to move forward in creating that safety and being able to find that beautiful, connected, safe reparenting of their own inner child. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Megan. And thank you as well for your softness and for you bridging this gap between other creators and other therapists and professionals, because like you said, it's one person comes across your profile or my profile, your work. And even if just listening to this inspires something within you, I'm so grateful for you hosting this podcast and making it so easy. I could have spoke to you all day, by the way. It was great.
Same. That's why
There's so much to cover.
We have to do this again because this is beautiful. And I feel like a very, very, very like-minded spirit. And I just really, really appreciate your openness and so grateful for you to be here. And I'm going to include all of Stephanie's links inside of the show notes. Please go follow her. All her posts are incredible, and I love following her. So I know you will too. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Good Girls Gotta Heal. I am so grateful to have you in this community. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. That helps us out greatly. And we'll see you next time.